In this video, I'm going to talk about one of the software packages that I use in my post-processing workflow. For the last couple of years, I've been using DxO PureRAW software. I've used it so much, it's pretty well an integral part of my post-processing workflow. Now, DxO have just released PureRAW 4, so in this quick video, I'm going to show you how I use it and some of the new features. So whether you're new to PureRAW or you're looking to upgrade from one of the previous versions of PureRAW, there should be something in this video for you. Okay, I'm going to jump into Lightroom in a second. I already have PureRAW 4 installed, but if you want to install it, you can download a demo copy from DxO's website. It doesn't matter whether you're a new user or whether you're already an existing licensed user for one of the previous versions. You can go in there and download a demo copy. I'll include a link for that in the video description below. The installation procedure is really simple. I just happen to use Lightroom as part of my workflow, so that's how I'll be using PureRAW. But you can use it standalone and you can use it with other post-processing editing applications as well. But the actual process and how the software works is exactly the same no matter how you execute it. So I just happen to be doing it in Lightroom. So let's jump onto Lightroom and we'll have a look at our first image. Okay, here I am in Lightroom, and the first image I'm looking at here is a photograph of East Mill Tor up on Dartmoor, one of my favorite areas to photograph. It's probably worth pointing out, you probably think the image is looking quite dark. This is because this is a raw file straight out of the camera. I haven't applied any corrections or post-processing to this file. I tend to expose my photographs for the highlights and then recover the shadows to give me a balanced exposure. I can get away with this because cameras like the Z7, I think this was shot on, you've got quite a lot of dynamic range to play with, so you've got quite a lot of leeway in post-processing. I'm going to go up to the plugin extras menu, and this is how I invoke PureRAW 4. You can see I've already got PureRAW 3 here. I'm going to review and process the raw file. This allows me to see the settings before I actually apply them, or I can just click on that and it will process the raw file and spit out the DNG file at the other end. I want to show you all the bits and pieces, so we're going to review and process the file. So I'll click on that. Now you get the PureRAW dialog box pops up here. Now this is going to look the same no matter which of your post-processing editing applications you use, or whether you use the new widget and you invoke it from the Explorer interface or straight from your memory card, or however you want to do it. This is going to look the same. Some of the new features here, we've got the preview. Now this is a fantastic new feature, I have to admit. This allows you to see what the corrections will look like before you get PureRAW to process them. So if I have a little zoom into the grass here, now this is obviously, I'm recording this from screen capture, so some of the changes might be difficult for you to visualize on a YouTube stream, but for me, the changes are quite clear, and this is one of the reasons why I really like PureRAW for my post-processing. So if I look at the grasses here in the front of it, on the left hand side here, this is what it currently looks like. This is the unprocessed raw file, and on the right hand side here I can see the magic that PureRAW has applied. What PureRAW does is it looks at the metadata information of your raw file and it works out what camera it was used and what lens was used, and then it goes into its massive database of cameras and lenses and downloads a specific profile. It only has to do that once, but once it's in your system, you can just reuse it. And this allows the PureRAW system to fix some of the inherent issues that you get with every lens. Every lens is potentially a little bit soft. It's nothing to do with whether you've misfocused. It won't correct your image if you don't get the focus right, but it will correct the limitations of the lens in a whole bunch of different ways. So if we look at the right hand side, we've got a couple of options here. These are the processing engines that PureRAW can use. You've got Deep Prime, and then you've got the second version of Deep Prime. And then down here you've got the optical corrections that you can apply, and this is based on the lens that the system has detected. So you've got lens softness, you can have standard. Now if I change that to hard, you can see that the grasses get a lot more crunchy. You might be able to see that slightly better on a YouTube stream. For me, that's too much. It's just a little bit too crunchy, bit over processed. So I tend to leave it on standard. You can get it to correct for vignetting, chromatic aberration, and lens distortion. You can turn these on and off as you see fit, and you can zoom out and you can see what the differences make. So if I turn off lens distortion, for example, you can see the image there, particularly just down at the bottom there's corrected. If I go into the hills here, I'll go in a bit closer actually, you can see how much it just kind of cleans that up rather nicely. Then you've got output format. You can have a number of different options here. You can actually do multiple outputs, which is a really handy thing. I tend to just stick in DNG. Destination, so these are particularly some of the new options that weren't available in version 2. Destination, so I can get the DNG file that it creates and I get to stick it in the original folder of where the raw file is. That's why I like to have it. I like to have my PureRAW DNG files alongside my NEF file. So, but you can put it in a subfolder or you can put it in a custom folder, depending on what your workflow needs. There's some new features here around file renaming. You can pretty well go to town on how you rename the files. You've got all these different presets here, and of course you can go in there and edit it. I tend to just stick to that. Oh no, I don't. I tend to do that one. No, I don't actually. I need to edit this. This is something a bit new. In fact, this is a great opportunity to look at one of the new features of PureRAW 4, and that's how you can customize the file names that are generated when you process your files. Currently, it's got file name, date, and processing method. Well, I already have date in my file name already, so I'm going to remove date. So it's just going to have file name and processing method. So you can see here, that's the name of my original file. And then my new file, the DNG file that would come out, would be that one there. Now it's important to note that it doesn't change your raw files. You don't lose your raw files. You don't delete your raw files. They still stay exactly where they are. This just creates a new DNG file. So I'm going to click OK there. Another feature, particularly if you haven't upgraded since PureRAW 2, you can now get it to put the resulting DNG file, or I'm picking DNG, into a collection. I work almost exclusively in collections, so I wanted to put it in the current collection. So where my raw file is in the collection, this DNG file will be automatically placed into that collection as well. So I've set all the options. They're fairly self-explanatory. To be honest, I never really change optical corrections. That tends to stay on those settings. I tend to stick to DNG only. I always want the destination file to be in the same folder and in the same collection where the original file is, and I've set some new custom renaming files method there. So I'm going to click on process. That doesn't take very long. To be fair, I've got a pretty powerful computer. It should only take a few seconds. I've processed one file here, but you can actually process quite a lot of them all at once. You can group them all up and it will process them in sequence. I tend to only process the files that I'm actually going to edit. So if you go out and shoot 1,000 images, I wouldn't necessarily just put them all through PureRAW. I do a bit of culling processing. The PureRAW only gets applied to the photographs that I'm definitely going to edit and keep. So I've got a side-by-side comparison of the photographs. On the right-hand side here, I've got the original RAW file, and on the left-hand side here, I've got the DxO PureRAW 4 processed version. So if I zoom into the details here, and if you can, hopefully you again can see this, if I try and make that a little bit bigger, you can hopefully see that the grasses, particularly in the foreground here, are a lot crisper, a lot sharper, and this is where I think PureRAW 4 really excels. It's not like sharpening in Lightroom where you just kind of applying a blanket sharpening algorithm, I should say. The sharpening that's applied here and the corrections that are applied here are specific to your camera and lens combination. So you're going to get much better results. You can see that everything's a lot crisper, a lot sharper, a lot more detailed, even in the background of the tour there. So I'm really happy with the way that that's been processed. Now, if I come out of that for a second, go into develop, I've already pasted the settings in for my finished file, so we can have a quick look. And there you can see that's the finished file. And if I have a close look in here, hopefully now you can see a bit better the detail that's come through here. It's been really well processed. I know there's a bit of movement here, but I quite like that. It was a very windy day, so it's good to see. And that sharpness goes throughout the image there. There's no vignetting in the corners either. It's been perfectly processed. For this next image, I'm going to show you some of the noise reduction capabilities that you get with PureRAW 4 as well. Now, I tend not to shoot many landscapes at high ISO. I'm very much a tripod man. I'm shooting at ISO 64, so noise reduction is not a big thing for me, but I do have an example of an image here that I think might be quite interesting. This is a woodland up in Dartmoor. Now, this is shot with my Nikon ZFC with a kit lens. It was handheld as well, so if you look at the specs, there's a ISO 6400. So again, we'll open up the interface. The first thing you notice, I've not used this camera and lens combination in PureRAW before, so this is what this looks like. It says, oh, I've detected this camera and lens, you want me to download it? Yep, so we'll click and save. It takes a few seconds, and away we go. So I'm going to go over the menu options again, but I will zoom in to have a look at the picture. So if you can see here, again, it just kind of sharpens it up rather nicely. You can see the detail there and the bracken really starting to come through. And if we look at some of the noisy areas down here, for example, particularly if you look at this twig, the way that starts to pop out, it's going to tidy that up rather nicely. So we'll click and process now. Okay, I've got the side-by-side view up again. I think on the right-hand side, yes, I've got the DxO version, and on the left-hand side, I've got the original RAW file processed. I've applied both sets of processing to both files now, so they look the same. And if you have a look in there, certainly for me, the amount of change is significant, very noticeable. If I look at around the leaves here, I can see quite a bit of noise here. It's virtually all gone here, but yet the detail and the sharpness has been maintained. It's quite a significant difference there. That's a really good test there to show some of not only the lens corrections, but also the noise reduction that can happen as well if you process the files via PureRAW. I'm going to show you this image next, because this is an example of probably where I wouldn't use PureRAW. Let me show you why. So this is a picture of a beach in Iceland. If I go into PureRAW here, now the image has gone blue. Now this is probably quite a good example. So I'd already post-processed that image. PureRAW processes your RAW file unedited. So if you try and put an edited image through PureRAW, it does display what the RAW file originally looked like. Again, it doesn't change your NEF file in any of the edits that you've made in Lightroom. It's showing you what it looks like on the base RAW file. Now, if I go in here, this is quite a high contrast scene. There's not an awful lot of detail in there. So correcting for lens distortions and sharpening, I don't find is of particular use. So if I have a look at the beach area here, yeah, there is a difference. Things do get sharpened up, for example, the rock, but I don't feel it's absolutely necessary for the photograph that this is the case. I mean, certainly this is quite dark here. This is just a black object. So there's nothing really to be gained from post-processing this in PureRAW. There'd be no harm in doing so, but I don't, just to indicate that you don't need to use it for every single image. It is on a kind of use case scenario. I think I'd be happy to just process this RAW file the way it is. One new feature I want to show you is actually the standalone module that you can get here. So this is allows you to, again, also process RAW files outside of post-processing. So I can just grab a RAW file here, I can stick it into the module. You can see I can stick more than one file in there and click and process with preview. And this again brings you back to that same user interface as I showed you earlier, all the same options. So it's a consistent user experience no matter which post-processing package you use or whether you use this sort of standalone widget. It was a very quick tour of PureRAW 4. It's really just to give you a kind of demo of its capabilities and to show you what it looks like. I do strongly suggest that you download a demo copy. It's fully featured, and I'll include a link for it in the video description below. But I think you'll be quite impressed about how it processes your RAW files. There's a lot more capabilities in version 4, so if you are coming from version 3 or even version 2, I think you'll enjoy some of the new features, and there is an upgrade license as well, particularly the preview, and allowing you to change the settings and see how your RAW file will look before it gets put out at the other end, and also the location about where it puts the DNG files as well. So yeah, whether you're new or an existing user, I do strongly suggest that you download a copy of it. For me personally, I probably wouldn't live without PureRAW now. I really like what it does to my RAW files. It really allows me to get the most out of my camera gear. I mean, no camera gear is perfect. Even these modern Z-mount lenses that I use are really optically superior to many of the lenses that I've used before, but that doesn't mean they're perfect. So these custom modules that DxO provide that automatically get downloaded into PureRAW 4 really help you make the most out of your RAW file. So that's why I do strongly suggest you have a look at it. It is an integral part of my workflow and will continue to do so. But I hope you've enjoyed this quick video. If you've got any questions, just leave them in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them. And hopefully I'll see you again in the next video. See you again.